everyone, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to do my first half of June wrap-up. So time is flying. Like, how is it the middle of June? I don't know. Everybody's probably saying that because it's just like time is flying. But we are here to do, as always, the books that I read in the first half of the month. So as always, I'm going to do my stats first and then tell you about the books that I read in the order that I read them. But I will also break it down by middle grade, young adult, and adult. So if there's only one section you're interested in, I will leave timestamps down below. As always, we are in my room and it is midlife today, you guys. It is Sunday and my parents are up here because my dad's birthday was this week. Father's Day is today. My daughter's birthday was this week. Like, it is just a week, and so they're up here just kind of celebrating. So I snuck away kind of middle of everything to come talk to you guys because I cannot wait to talk about some of these books. And you guys, this month or this part of the month was unlike any other because I DNF 3 books, and in 2022, the entire year, I DNF 4 books, and it was my goal to get better about that, and I would say I did because I DNF'd 3 in the past 2 weeks. So let's just get into it. So I read 14 books and DNF'd 3. The DNFs will not count for any of the rest of these stats, but I will talk about them when we talk about the books. I read 3,709 pages, which is 247 pages per day. The average length is 265 pages per book. So I trended a little bit more towards reading my own stuff. My kids and I were a little slumpy, and so you'll see kind of what that's about. I read 0.93 books a day, which is still super great. I feel really good about that. I read 9 novels and 5 chapter books. So normally those are a little more evenly split and or trends towards more chapter books. But this month I was just kind of going through my own books. And like I said, my kids and I were a little slumpy. So I read 8 adult, 1 young adult, and 5 middle grade. 7 were on my shelf and 7 were from somewhere else. So that feels good. My goal is 50-50. But the exception comes, I'm completely fine with utilizing the library almost exclusively for my kids, just because my middle grade shelf is not that extensive. I read 7 physically and 7 on audio. 2 were new releases and 12 were backlist. And as far as the genre goes, I read 4 Christian fiction, 3 nonfiction, 3 women's fiction, 2 contemporary, 1 romance, and 1 sci-fi fantasy. So let's just get into the books. Oh, no, let's get into the star ratings first. So as I said, 3 DNFs, 1 2-star, 1 2.5 star, 1 3-star, 3 3.5 stars, 7 4 stars, and 1 5 star. So the average is 3.64, which is higher than my average rating, but in general, I would say this first half of the month has been very slumpy. Like for me, for them, all these DNFs are great because I'm like not spending a ton of time on them, but I am still spending time on them and I'm like dud. And a 2, 2.5, and 3 is all kind of a bummer. And so I feel like I'm in a little bit of a slump, but we'll see. Let's get into these books. So starting with middle grade, we read Piper Morgan Joins the Circus. And this is the first in the Piper Morgan series. We read one randomly and it was somewhere in the middle of the series. And so I thought, let's go back. We have not read it in a while and let's go back and read the first one. So this one, my daughter and I both could have sworn that we have read this, but I've kept spreadsheets for this is my 3rd year, and I couldn't see that we read it anywhere, but we were both very familiar with the story. So this is about a little girl named Piper Morgan, and her mom travels around and takes like temp jobs. And so she takes this temp job in the circus, and Piper takes a minute, but she really finds her place in the circus. She kind of messes up a few times and yet finds out that mistakes are fine. And I loved that conversation around how we all mess up sometimes. It's fine. It's how you recover. It's what you do with it. And then at the end, they have to move on to the next job. So these books are really fun. We've only read this first one lately, but I definitely want to continue with the series. Next, so my kids and I do every night. We do a Bible devotional of some sort, and so we had just finished the Louis Giglio one. I can't remember. There's 3 of them in a series, and I can't remember How Great Is Our God, I think is the one we had just finished. So we picked up this Abeka Primary Bible Reader because I'm thinking about switching. If you guys don't know, I homeschool my kids, and I'm thinking about switching my language arts curriculum to Abeka, and so I got kind of the first grade stuff going on, and this is a part of it, and this was not for us. We DNF'd it pretty quick because this is the King James version. It is a the stories from the Bible with great pictures and all of that, but it is told in King James, and I feel like King James is hard for me to understand, let alone my kids. And so we have been loving the Louis Giglio ones. We've been loving all the ones we've been doing, and I just think there's a lot better fit. This was not fun for any of us, and so I'm going to not make this a part of our curriculum, not make this a part of our day, and unhaul it. Next is Isadora Moon goes to the ballet, and this is number like 3 or 4 or something in Isadora Moon. So Isadora Moon is half vampire, half fairy. Her dad's a vampire, mom's a fairy, and she's half of each. And so she is going to the ballet with her class to see her very favorite ballerina, and her little white rabbit has a part that he needs to play, and they're doing Alice in Wonderland as the ballet. So it was fun. My girls do ballet and they love these books, so it was fun. Next, we read the next 3 in The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls. And so these books are all books about stories of the Bible as well. And these are brother and sister. They are staying with their uncle for a month in the summer or something while their parents go to Africa. And he's a paleontologist, or maybe a paleontologist, an archaeologist. I think he's an archaeologist. That makes a lot more sense because he has a lot of ancient artifacts. And when the lion roars, he's got a lion head on his library door. And when the lion roars, they pick a scroll and get sucked into a Bible story. So in this first one, The Great Escape, it's when Moses and Pharaoh letting the people go. And this one was good. Then Journey to Jericho was about Jericho. This one was honestly my least favorite. I feel like this told really nothing of the story. It told about trying to escape Jericho before the walls fell, but that was about it. Like it didn't convey the message very effectively, in my opinion. And then The Shepherd's Stone, this is about David and Goliath. And so I loved this book, like this series, when we started it, and now it's okay. So the first one I gave The Great Escape, I gave 4 stars because it talks about all the plagues and stuff. And so we were talking a lot about like what that would be like and why that was happening and all of that. That was really good. This one I gave 2.5 stars because it was kind of a slog to get through, and I didn't feel like it gave the message very well. And then this one I gave 3.5 stars. So it gave the message of kind of the small and mighty David. You know, you don't have to be big, you don't have to have the best weapons, you don't have to be the strongest, and you just have to have faith. And it gave that message, but not as much as I was really hoping for. So these 3 books are kind of the reason that my kids and I are a little slumpy because they just slowed down quite a bit. And some of the stories are a little less effective. I don't know how quickly these are coming out or came out. I know the series is over. And it just felt like they were kind of rushed through. So that's that. So now we are on to the one young adult I read, and that is A Week of Mondays by Jessica Brody. So this one is really fun. Jessica Brody I read The Chaos of Standing Still, and I enjoyed that one. She is not one of my go-to YA authors, but this one was really better for me. I gave this 4 stars. So this is about a girl. It's the Groundhog's Day trope. So she has a Monday from heck. It's picture day. It's softball tryouts. She has to give a speech for class president or class vice president. Her boyfriend breaks up with her. There's a fair that is going on, and she's got these carnival dreams about this romantic thing, and her boyfriend breaks up with her instead. It is just a rough day for her. And she has an allergic reaction. All these things happen on this day. And so then she wakes up, and the next day it's the exact same day. She keeps living this Monday over and over and over and over. And so I love the way it's told because it's told, let's see if I can find the start. So it's the first Monday, and then it does timestamps of kind of what time things are happening. My complaint about this book, the reason it wasn't 5-star or higher, is because it is 7 Mondays, as the title implies. It is a week of Mondays. So she goes through 7 of them. And by the 4th one, I was kind of okay, let's speed this along. So this is also a pretty chunky book. And I feel like by the 3rd one, for sure, you know the structure of her day. You know what happens at each time and where she's at when. And we don't need quite as much explanation as we do in the first couple. And I just feel like we got a little too much about, I mean, I understand why they give the details, because every time she takes a different approach to this day. And she's thinking she's like getting this opportunity to do it right. And her definition of what doing it right is changes every day. And so it makes sense. I never in this book was I like, this is a slog. But I was kind of sick of seeing the same things every day. Like, I feel like the changes were not quite drastic enough between some of the early days to make 7 necessary. By the end, she's doing like drastically different things, and I liked that. But yeah, so it was good. I still gave it 4 stars. Now on to the adult books. So this one is one that I have seen everywhere, and I feel like I bought this off Pango Books because I wanted to have it just to have on my shelf, and I'd rather be reading The Delights and Dilemmas of the Reading Life by Anne Bogle. So this one is, she has a podcast, which I read next, and I don't listen to that, but I did really enjoy this book. It's a tiny little thing, just about the joys of reading. And it's nothing like exceptional. I don't think I like learned anything from it, but I did feel seen. And it's just about what makes a reader, what it means to be a reader, how to explain to others what it means to be a reader. I gave this 4 stars. Next is Verena Palladino's Jersey Italian Love Story by Terry Lynn DeFino. So Terry Lynn is actually my aunt's name, which is really funny, but I hated this book. This is a art copy that my friend Bree from Bree Unabashedly sent me, but I didn't like this at all. This is a multi-generational story, but story kind of implies that it has plot, and I would argue that it doesn't. The back of the book says, so Verena Palladino is a 70-year-old woman, and this is told, it's her story as well as her mother, who's in her 90s, and her middle-aged kids, who there's like 4 of them. They all have D names. It was crazy. And like the back says the story is them trying to like set her up, Verena, the 70-year-old. Okay, that's not really what it's about. Like, it's just like random musings, loud hijinks, and that's fine. Like, I think there's a way to do that in a funny way, but this just wasn't it. It was meandering. There was a lot of side story about like a family friend named Polly, and I really liked, I gave it 2 stars, but I really liked at the beginning of some chapters, not every chapter, I don't think, but there is like an Italian slang word or something, a Jersey Italian, and this one has 2, that I think is so funny because it's like jumballoon Italian, a donut-shaped frosted cake, uli Italian, it says how to say it in Italian, wish, desire, and longing. So I really liked that part, but I did not like really any other part of this story. So 2 stars on this. I will not be recommending it. And yeah, it's like I wanted it to be like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and it just was not. Next is Slightly Engaged by Wendy Markham. So this is number 3 in her Slightly series. This follows the same character. It's kind of a la Shopaholic books. They're our main character. She's kind of quirky, kind of silly. These are from the early 2000s, so there's definitely like some homophobia, some fat phobia, things that you really have to overlook. And in this one, she is with her boyfriend, and she's just waiting on a ring. And they go home to her family, actually, in, I think it's Jersey, maybe they live in New York, and I think she's from upstate New York, and they're an Italian family. And like this one, I felt like it's over Thanksgiving, and I feel like we got that like Italian, homey, like loud, funny vibe, and I really enjoyed it in this one, whereas I did not enjoy it in this one. And this one just wasn't my favorite because it's very repetitive, and she's just waiting for this ring, waiting for the ring, waiting for the ring. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's because my life stage is different, maybe it's just because, I don't know, this was just okay. I gave it 3.5 stars, I think, because I still love these books, but this wasn't my favorite. Next is Fat Talk, Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture by Virginia Soul Smith. So Virginia Soul Smith is somebody I just recently found, and she is like just a body positivity person who does a lot of research on kids. And I read her first book. I can't remember what it was called, but this Fat Talk was really interesting, but also really terrifying. Like, I gave it 4 stars because it's just talking about how harmful our culture is for our kids. Like, and as the mom of 3 girls, these are things I ruminate about all the time anyway. I didn't really need like all the information about like how doctors have such a fat bias, how sports are so, kind of potentially harmful for body positivity. And like she does give, I would say there's not enough positivity in this book or like ways to kind of counteract culture, because like I almost left the book with like a sense of doom of like they're gonna get issues, they're gonna have issues because that's our culture. And I agree to some extent, but I think also like as their mom, I can really build up their identity and who they are. And so those things impact them less. I don't know. I thought all of it was very informative and very well said and well thought out and well researched. It just kind of scared me. So 4 stars on that one. I still enjoyed it, but tread with caution. Next is A Child of My Own by Vanessa Carnival. This one I buddy read, and I just love buddy reading so much. And this is an interesting story about 2 women who used to be best friends. And one of them, let's see, Lucy, I think was their name. Lucy is married to Ben. Is that right? If I remembered that, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. But whatever. Lucy was married, and they knew they did not want kids. And so they, their friend, Isla, no, it's Isla and Ben and Lucy and I don't remember his name, but whatever. Isla and Ben cannot have kids. And so Lucy and her husband, Nate, I don't know. I need to stop. Anyway, they donated embryos. So they donated embryos to their friends, and there ended up being 3 of them. And so they donated them, and now it's almost 10 years later. They have 1 left, and because they had 1 not work out, and they have a 9-year-old daughter, and then now the 3rd one is takes place in Australia. In Australia, you can only keep them on like frozen for 10 years, and so it's about to be used up. And so Isla and Ben are like, do we use it? Do we not? They decide, well, I won't tell you what they decide. But at the same time, Lucy's husband unexpectedly dies. And so it is, who's the embryo belong to, So I really enjoyed a lot of this story. However, I do feel like it was way too short. We get some like ventures into, kind of the law process around this, and there were some things I didn't know about, and it was interesting, but then like it just kind of resolved in a way that I wanted to see more. And I would have loved like flashback chapters or then and now timeline or something, because these people were best friends. They grew up together, like they were best friends, and then something happened that tore them apart, and now they're coming back together, and they are supposedly have this like deep bond that I just didn't feel like we felt, because we didn't get to see any of the time that they were actually friends. And there needed to be a little more development. This is less than 300 pages, and so I'm glad I read it with somebody and was able to like discuss, because there needs to be just a little bit more in this. So there's my thoughts on that. Next is Love Walked In by Marissa de los Santos, and I DNF'd this one because I could not stand the writing style. First of all, it's overly descriptive. It's told Cornelia and what's the little girl, Claire. It's told in 2 perspectives, and Cornelia, her life supposedly changed when this guy walks into the cafe or whatever that she works in, and she is all about romantic movies to the point that it's like annoying talking about all these romantic movies. She also breaks the 3rd wall, 4th wall, whatever it is, where she like talks to us as the reader, and it's really distracting. And they're like this, I just hated this, honestly. I DNF'd it. I read some spoilers like as if I couldn't guess the connection between the 2 of them, but and I don't think it got better necessarily. The plot was not the problem, it was the writing style. So I don't feel like reading it would have done anything. I do have the 2nd in this series, and I'm planning to unhaul them both. Next is The Read Aloud Family. This is by Sarah Mackenzie, and this was a 5-star. This was so good, and this motivated me so much to read to myself, to my family, to all the things. This is just about the importance of books and the awesomeness of books, and the importance of reading aloud, but without being shamey at all. This is like, if you've got 30 minutes in an entire week, great. that like books bring you together. Books, it's not about what you're reading or any of that. It's just about the fact that you're spending time kind of bonding in a story, creating inside jokes, like all of that. And it was so good. I would highly recommend this if you are, and this is not like, I think she does homeschool, but this is not homeschool based. And it gives different ideas for like ways to engage your kids in reading. Like it's just, this was so good. Next is something that I was anticipating so much because I've heard nothing but good things, and it is Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Deese. Now, why am I acting a little bit disappointed? I thought this was just okay. I've never read Nicole Deese, and this is a story about adoption. At its core, it's a story about adoption. It's about a woman who has signed up to be a single parent adopting a child from China. And part of the deal is that she needs to be single. So she meets this guy and they start to have a romance, and she's like, hey, I can't like be in this because one, I'm about to get a child and I need to, like, I agreed that I would be single, and two, like, my focus is going to be on this child, not on a relationship. So I loved that she like stood up and did the right thing as far as that goes, and wasn't like blinded by some man, although I do think that like the relationship was probably genuine, but I felt like the relationships, like the romance stuff was very told, not shown. Like I did not feel an emotional connection to these people, and I wish there would have just almost not been a romance and just the focus on the adoption case, but it was not like there wasn't enough of the adoption stuff to make a whole story out of it, so they needed the romance to make a whole story. And I liked kind of the choices she made. I liked the conversation around adoption, and that so many people, like, we are people who have struggled with fertility, and so many people say just adopt, and that is such a joke. Like, just adopt. Having fertility issues and adopting are both hard, so hard. And like, we personally know a family who's been waiting 18 months and to adopt a child from Taiwan, and it's not happening, and things keep falling through. And I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of time, money, your heart. Like, there's no such thing as just adopting. And this book, I do feel like definitely portrayed that. So I gave it 3.5 stars, but my enjoyment was not super high. So bummer on that. If you guys have read Nicole Deese, tell me where to go next, because I still want to keep like trying with her, but we'll see. And then the last one is Mismatch by Erin Magnum. So I have heard this book talked about so much from Morgan from Nothing Better Than a Book, and then lately Celestia has been talking about it, and so I was like, goodness gracious, I wanted to read it when Morgan was talking about it. And then when Celestia recently started talking about it, I was like, all right, fine, I'm going to read it. And so I did. I started it, and like I told Celestia, I said, you make me, like, I'm going to read that book. It's a series, but I said, I'm picking it up because of you. And she was like, oh no, I don't think you're going to like it. And why do you guys know my taste better than me? Like, how does this happen? I ended up DNFing this book. It's about a girl who like likes to make matches and likes to play matchmaker. And I just like, she is an adult woman who reads like a 14-year-old, and I just didn't like it at all. I got like a third of the way through and I was like, I don't care to pick this back up. So DNF that. So that is my first half of June. Let me know what you guys thought of these books, if you've read them, or what you read in the first half of June. That is it. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.